This is Luke Radowski of WeAreChange.org here in Manchester, New Hampshire, and I'm here with Carlos Morales, who is a former employee of the CPS, Child Protective Services. Now, Carlos, from your experiences working there, what do you think that American people should know about CPS?
Well, first and foremost, Child Protective Services does not help children, it hurts them. Based primarily on their actual incentive structure. You see, Child Protective Services gains more money for every single child they take away, as well as foster homes do. You see, because the only way that CPS gets money essentially is they prove allegations are true. So they prove that allegations are true in regards to, say, maybe a parent who smoked marijuana at one point. You can actually kidnap a child based on that.
Wow. Correct?
So, and in family court, the judges are paid for by the same people that are paying Child Protective Services. So they, again, are also paid for by in the same case. Child Protective Services does not gain money by actually helping children or preventing child abuse whatsoever.
Working at the CPS, what are some of the most egregious cases that you came upon or heard of that happened?
Well, you know, we removed children because a parent was allowing their child to be outside for too long of time. We removed a child because a parent was smoking marijuana outside their home when they weren't even with their own kid at the particular time. And of course, when you talk about activists who are getting in trouble regarding Child Protective Services, there's actually a particular case in Austin where someone who admitted to being for the legalization of cannabis, well, his home was basically broken into by Child Protective Services and police investigators. They managed to find one joint. They took his child outside of the home, and that kid died in foster care within 7 days.
Wow, that's just horrendous, horrible stories. You've been there. How long have you been working at the CPS?
Well, I quit after working there for 1 year and 1 month after a particularly terrible case in which a mother was actually shot in front of her children. I will not talk about the particular name of the case just because I did not want to, you know, that kind of go back on the family.
You don't want to reveal the information of the family that are being affected. But CPS, I mean, obviously you're working there. It's a very serious organization. From where it's heading and where it's going, do you see a lot of political repercussions based on people who speak up against political issues? Do you see CPS being used against people like that?
Absolutely. Again, as the activists have already mentioned, a number of people who have also been for things like homeschooling and unschooling and maybe not for the Western style of medicine have been attacked. And there's been false allegations made in regards to those people being essentially terrible parents, even though they're not, and having their children removed. I mean, it's case after case after case. I mean, I've basically put my phone number out there, and I get about 20 phone calls a day just from people who are being assaulted by these individuals, which is why it's really important for people in the liberty movement or just political movement in general to understand what to do if Child Protective Services comes after them.
Now, I know you made this your cause from your personal experiences and the horrible things that happened and occurred when you were working for CPS, but what should people know out there if they get a contact? What should people know specifically with dealing with the CPS? Do you have any quick tips and pointers and advice for them out there?
Absolutely. First and foremost, recognize the fact that Child Protective Services does not help children. It is a domestic terror cell within the United States. Secondly, let every single other person you know that fact, including your kids. So if investigators ever go up to your kids to start talking to them, they're legally allowed to do so, but the kids do not have to say anything back to them. Third, if they show up to your house, do not allow them into your home because a few dirty pants can be considered unlivable conditions for a child. Fourth, sign absolutely no paperwork whatsoever. Fifth, admit to no prior drug use, admit to no prior domestic violence, admit to basically nothing that could ever endanger the lives of your child because they will use any single thing against you. They will manipulate the words that you're using because they do it time and time and time again.
Now, I know of two particular families that were active in the political scene, and because of their particular viewpoints and arguments and beefs that they had with other people, people just decided to call CPS on them, and situations got very ugly. So I'm very thankful for people like you who were on the inside, who are willing to speak out to tell us about what's really happening with CPS. Just the fact alone that they're getting paid to gather up more children is just astonishing and seems very backwards. But do you have a website or a podcast that people could find out more about you? I know you've made this your cause. Where can people find out more about what you're doing?
You can find every single thing I produce at truthovercomfort.net. It's a podcast and YouTube show. It also has a community for people who are having issues with Child Protective Services.
Thank you so much, Carlos. Is there anything else you want to say to the people out there who are listening right now?
Absolutely. Stay strong in your struggle against Child Protective Services, and I will fight these bastards tooth and nail.
Wow. Carlos, thank you so much for your work and actions. Really appreciate it.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to preview a feature I was working on. It's called CPS User Interfaces, and I'm going to jump straight into it. This is the Metapolator Object Model Developer tool of the Atom project, Atom Tooling Expressive Models, and I just built something that I think is interesting. I'm going to select just this glyph for my example. It's the Condense Extra Bold master. And I'm going to use this onCurve point for my example. So what we can do now is we can create a custom property called whatever. I'm going to call it on user interface. And then I have a marker constructor, which is called user interface, and I can feed it any value. Currently only vectors are working because it's hard to make. It's harder to make than slider, for example. It's cool to show. So create the vector at a 0, 0 position. One thing I did not build in is yet that on creation of a user interface, that's not detected, so I have to just get it here and can already see. Let me zoom a bit in. You can read the button. What you can see here is a black dot that appeared, and have a look at this description here. When I'm starting to drag this vector, it's going to change the numbers that we see in here. And vice versa, when I change the numbers, the user interface will change as well. So you'll see. No. Yeah, like that. So that's one thing. The other thing that I want to do is I want to move this point around. Let me just make the glyph a bit bigger again, and this a bit smaller. So let me select this point. It has an original description down here, which I'm going to copy for my purposes, because I want to override the original, the final on. The original on description, actually. The second argument of the user interface marker constructor is a relative value, which I can insert here. So now it disappeared. It's now relative to the original on value. So now it's back here. You can see it again. We select this again, and now I can override this tad too big. Now I can override the on value with my user interfaces value, which is on UI value. Bam. This is not what we intended, because actually the value is only the first point. So what we can do is we can reference the arguments that we gave the user interface constructor here. It's done like this. Arguments. Second one, actually, it's number one, and that's it. Now I can use this thing and have some fun with it. This is quite nice, you might think, but actually I created another nice thing for you, which is a example. I prepared it, what should I say, interpolated. This is an interpolation of 4 masters that we have in this project. This is the base file to define this interpolation, and I already prepared this description here, which is mapping the coordinates of the vector to our interpolation axis. And I did leave this one up because just to show you how to reference these user interfaces. So this is working already. The x-axis is my width axis, and the y-axis is my weight axis. So I can do cool stuff here. You may have seen the 500 here, which is the unit. So when one of these coordinates is at 500, this means 1, and if it's bigger than that, we are already doing extrapolation. So this stuff like here is not part of the master. It's outside of the range of the masters. And similarly, we can go thinner than thin, actually. This works also with modlibs. Let me show you modlibs with the same screen. Just B and maybe G. So, and you see this the interface is shown in all the libs, and I can actually drag and drop it everywhere. But it's all just one reference to a lot of references to the same value. This value here is referenced by all the libs. I was thinking I could maybe change that fact, but I tried it before and it failed miserably, so I'm not going to do that for you. Just moving this around a bit and show you how nice this works. Alright, that's it. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you again. Bye.
My name is Lillian Cass. I'm a special education teacher at Austin Polytechnical Academy on the west side. I've been teaching for 9 years, and I've been teaching at Austin Polytech for 5. Here tonight for a lot of reasons. Where do I start? School closings I've just seen the effect that school closings have had. I used to teach at Calumet on the south side, which was closed and is now a charter school. I'm currently teaching at Austin, which was turned around about 6 years ago and is likely to be turned around again. And I just see the lack of stability, how that affects our students. And school is often, for my students, it's the one stable place in their neighborhood. It's the one place they go every day that they can rely on who's going to be there and what's going to happen, and they can rely on a certain level of structure and safety. And when you close a school or turn it around or make it a charter school or whatever you want to call it, those kids lose that structure, they lose that stability, they lose the teachers and the social workers and the nurses and the counselors who are there for them every day. And all of a sudden, they're going to a building every day where they don't know anybody, and those teachers don't know them, don't know their families, and don't know their communities. And it just creates a chaotic environment that isn't good for the kids and is not conducive to learning. My school currently doesn't have a counselor, doesn't have an art teacher, doesn't have a music teacher, doesn't have an assistant principal, doesn't have a librarian. They've been starving us out. 5 years ago when I first came to Austin Polytech, we were a rising school. Our kids, we had 95% attendance, both for students and for teachers. Now our student attendance rate is maybe 73%, and it's because a lot of these services and additional activities have been cut. They've been starving us out for the last couple of years. We're expecting to be on the list, but whether or not we are on the list, it doesn't matter whether my school is closing or not. I believe that school closings across the city and across the country need to stop, because there's no research that shows that turning around a school or closing a school does anything positive for those students or for that community.